Hey everyone, welcome to the Let's Create series, a series where we'll create mechanics from popular games using blueprints. Today we'll be adding particles, sound effects, and building a small level. This is an add-on to my previous video where we did jump pads and collectibles using the third-person controller, so make sure to watch that one first. So let's begin by adding in the particle effects. We're going to be learning the cascaded particle editor, which will be quite fun. And hopefully I can break it down in a really simple way for everyone. At first, it's a bit overwhelming. So first of all, what we need to do is create a particle system. And we're going to call this the P_collectible. The reason for the P is just so when you're searching, it's easy to find the particle system by typing P. It will come up with all of your particles. If we don't do that and you type in collectible, you might get collectible sound effect and all of that stuff. What we're going to do next is create a folder for our particles. Drag in the P_collectible into the particle folder, move here, and then we're going to go into the cascade editor. So, first thing we want to do, when you mess around with a particle system, you get these default crosshair thingies. We don't want those. We actually want to go to required, and in here it comes up with a bunch of different tabs. What you care about first of all as a beginner is messing around with the default particle. This is going to change what this looks like. In order to change what this looks like, we need a material. Now, we have already imported the starter content, and I'll just show you quickly. The starter content comes with a bunch of particles with various materials. We can actually use these materials to our advantage and save ourselves some time. In a later video, I'll show you how to set up materials for particles. For now, what we're going to do is click here, and we're going to get the flare, m_flare, which is from the particles/materials folder. And now we get these soft particles, which we can modify and use in a various amount of ways. So, for a collectible, we want the particles to burst out. If you notice, they're going at a consistent rate. In order to change this consistent rate, we need to go to spawn. And you'll see there are two panels here. One is spawn and the other one is the burst. We don't want it to go at a consistent rate, so we actually want this to be 0. So we're going to minimize this tab and this one. We want to go straight into burst, and in order to have the burst, we need to create an array element, so click the plus. And now we need to tell it how many particles we want to occur at once. So if I type in 1, it'll give me 1, 10, it'll give me 10. So let's do something like 40 for now, just for fun. And we're then going to convert this particle system into a type data GPU sprites. The reason why we're converting it to GPU is because instead of rendering on the CPU, it can render on the GPU, which usually saves quite a bit of performance, or at least that's what the Unreal docs says. You'll get this message here. We're going to fix this after, and I'll explain what it is after. What we're going to do now is change the initial color. So right click in this space down here, go to color, initial color, and delete color over lifetime by clicking on it and pressing delete, as we do not need it. In initial color, we can modify this by clicking on this bar here where it says constant, and we can just left click and drag depending on what color we want our collectible to be. So for now, I'm just going to choose what looks nice, something like blue. I am then going to right click again and right click down here, sir. We're going to go to location and we're going to make it a sphere. We are then going to get rid of initial velocity so it stops moving up. And you notice the particles are in various sphere arrangements every time it creates a new arrangement. What we want to do is we want the particles to actually kind of explode in a radius, which is why I chose sphere. So if you scroll down, you will get velocity, and velocity is going to add velocity to each particle over the duration, and we've currently got it set to 1 second, so they're currently just moving out over 1 second. If you want it to be even more, if you see the velocity scale, you can make this something like 5. and it'll just go really quickly out, or 2. I think 3 will be a really good amount, so I'm going to set it to 3. And to quickly make this particle system look a lot better, if you right click and then we go to size and then size by life, we can actually make the particles shrink at the end so they don't just awkwardly disappear. In order to do this, I'm just going to get rid of this. You don't have this at the moment. I'll just get rid of the 2 points. So, oh wait, no, you do. Sorry. So my tab was already clicked because I was using this earlier. So what you want to do is click on distribution, click constant curve, and go to points. There should be 2 array elements. The first element is 0, and this indicates the starting size. So if I was to make that 0, notice how it's affecting each axis. So, and if I was to change the out, it no longer exists. So the first one is how they start off. And notice, because the out is 0, they shrink over time. If I was to make it 1, they go back to being that size again. 0.5, they shrink, but they don't fully disappear. But if I make it 0, it gives a really nice effect that the particles are just fading away. So now that we have that sorted out, we want to go to spawn. Sorry, go to required. And if you scroll down, actually, we're going to use the search button. If you type a loop, you will get emitter loops. And you notice the particle system, when you collect something in a game, you just want it to be, you hit the object and then it disappears. The particles go and then they just die off. In order to make this occur, we need the emitter loop to be set at 1. If you highlight over here, the number of times to loop the emitter, 0 indicates that it's going to loop forever. If you were to make it 1, it will do 1 completed, 1 completed. If you make it 2, it'll go through 2 iterations and then completed. So we just want that to be set to 1. And the final thing we want to do is set the bounds. If we don't set the bounds, there will be certain angles you won't be able to see the particle effect at because we're using GPU sprites. By setting the fixed bounds, we can see it no matter what angle we look at the particle system at. So we're going to hit save, and that's actually it for the particles. So once again, we set the initial color, we made it so it bursts out of a sphere with a velocity, and we made it so the lifetime shrinks over time. The more you mess around with this, the more you'll learn about it and get familiar with it. So I highly recommend messing around with this Cascade editor. So that's that done. So we're going to close that off. If you go into your particles, you can actually drag this into the scene and you can see it. It will just do one burst. All right, so what we're going to do next is, before we do any blueprints, we want some sound effects. And for that, we have a brilliant website. So these are ones I was generating before. And you probably heard that. This is BFXR, which if you go to now, we're going to actually use this for this tutorial. If you click on one of these tabs, I'll just turn this down a bit. If you click on one of these, it'll generate a sound. And we can use these for our game. So the first thing I want to generate for is we have the jump pad. So if I go to jump, I get a sound I might like. And then I can click on these tabs here to modify the synth. And I can go further into detail by using these sliders down here. But for today, I just want to keep it really simple. And I'm going to use the breaker. Actually, let's try a few more. And if you click here, you can go to a previous one. I like this one. I'm going to keep this one. And once you've clicked and you've figured out which synth you want to use, and you may have changed these settings, we can just export a WAV. And I'll call this my jump pad sound. Save it. And now you've saved it. I saved it on my desktop. The sound is here. Inside of this folder, you can make a new folder called sound effects and open sound effects and drag in the jump pad sound. We can also go ahead and just make a quick pickup sound for the collectible. So these are all coins. So I'm going to use this one. Export WAV. Oh wait. Export WAV. And this will be my pickup sound. Then I don't need this window anymore, so I'm just going to drag it off to the side. I'm going to just drag in my pickup sound. And now I've got my sound effects and my particles set up. So now we can set up our blueprint. So what we're going to be doing is going onto our blueprints folder. First of all, environment blueprint and jump pad. And if we just scroll out, this is the area where we want it to play the sounds before it launches the character. In order to play the sound, we're going to play it in 2D space. So play sound and 2D. If you did sound at location, you could have ambient sounds in a game where if you're far away, you can give like audio hints to the player as to what's coming up. If you have like environmental hazards, sound at locations are really cool. But for a pickup, you want the player to really hear that they've picked it up. So play sound 2D is perfect. The only thing you need to do for play sound 2D is tell it what asset to play. In this case, we want to play the jump pad sound. Compile, save, and let's close that and see what happens. There we go, we get the sound effect. And now we can go ahead and do the collectible. So go into your interactive BP collectible, and here is the area where we want to play the sound effect and also the particle system. So we're going to drag this out, play sound. We're familiar with this one. Then we just drag that, we just open that, sorry, and we make this the collectible. Oh wait, what did I call it? Oh, pickup. I called it pickup. Pickup sound. And then what we want to do is we want to spawn our particle. Now, the way nodes refer to this is spawn emitter at location. So we're going to spawn the emitter at a location. This location is going to be the location of our object here. So we're going to get the world location. So let's get the world location for the sphere, which will give us a return value that we can put into the location. And then in the emitter template, we can select the particle system, which was p underscore collectible. And now we can just hit save, compile and save. Close this off. And sound effect there. And then we get that sound effect. Awesome. So now we've got the sound effects and the particles playing. We're actually going to add a few materials to make this a bit more interesting, because the jump pad's just, you know, pretty boring in color. You can't really tell if it does anything special, and neither can you tell that this is really that fancy apart from its spinning and bobbing up and down movement. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to just create a folder. We're going to call this art, and we're going to go into this folder, create a new folder, materials. Let me drag this up for you guys. And inside of materials, we're going to create a new material, and we're going to call this the M underscore emissive. And what we're going to be doing inside of this, once you open it, is be creating an emissive material so our objects can light up. It's going to be really cool. So we're going to right click and we're going to create a constant. A constant is just a float, as you can see here. We're going to convert this to a parameter so we can access it inside of a material instance, which I'll introduce to you in a moment. But the basic concept is that you want to create a few materials that you need for the game, and then you want to create instances, because instances costs less when you're running the game. It's just a bit more optimized. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to call this the emissive amount, and then we're going to create one up here called constant, and we're going to get the constant 3 vector, which is going to give us a color. We are also going to convert this to a parameter, and we're going to be calling this the emissive color. We are then going to create a multiply, which is going to add in the RGB A of the emissive color with the number, how much emission we want, and then we're just going to plug that into emissive color. We're then going to hit save. You won't notice any changes up here because we haven't set these settings up, but we don't want to set this here. We're going to do that process I mentioned before. We're actually going to create instances. So if I right click this material, press create material instance, and I type in instance underscore jump pad, for example, and then I create another one, instance underscore collectible, I can now interact with this, and by double clicking it, and you get instance underscore jump pad. I can tick these, change the color. So for example, I might want my jump pad to be something like green or yellow or red or purple or whatever. So let's say I choose yellow, and then if I go to emissive amount, let's put it at 40, it is now glowing and it looks really nice. And what you can do from here is click on your jump pad, edit blueprint, open blueprint editor. In the viewport, you can go to your cylinder, and you'll notice materials down here. We can type in instance, jump pad, and now our jump pad has these emissive properties. Compile, save, close. And now our jump pads, they have an emissive look to them, which is really awesome. I just deleted my post-processing volume because we haven't gotten to that yet. I had accidentally left that in from before. And what we're going to do next is in our instance underscore collectible, we're going to tick here the parent. So, oh, whoops, we made a massive mistake. So I accidentally right-clicked the instance jump pad and made a material instance. We're actually just going to delete the instance collectible. We want to always make instances from the original material. So right click, create material instance, instance underscore collectible. We're going to open this up the same as we did before. And for our collectible, we want to make a certain color. So I believe blue will look quite nice because that's what we made our particle system. And then we'll make this say 60. And now we get that really nice blue glow. So save that, close. We're going to do the same process where we click on this collectible blueprint, edit the blueprint, viewport, sphere, which is really a cube. And then we're going to change this into instance underscore collectible, and we get that awesome blue glow. Compile and save it. And now our object's actually glowing in the scene. And to add on to this, what we can do is we can go over here into our modes, go to visual effects, throw in our post-processing volume. Then if you scroll down on this post-processing volume, we can actually, before that, this is getting really messy, make sure these wall objects, just chuck them into environment for now. Same thing as the cubes. We'll make a new folder. We'll make this interactive objects. We'll chuck in all of these various jump pads and collectibles into interactive objects. And then we'll create one more new folder called Unreal Defaults. And these are just things that come with the engine, which is everything here, and drag it into there. That's much better. So back to what I was just doing. In our post-processing volume, scroll all the way down. There's a thing called Unbound. And let me show you what that does. So if you scroll back up and go to Bloom and change it, you won't notice really any difference. I'm just going to set it to 2.5. Now if I click unbound, it can now affect the whole scene. And as you can see with bloom, it allows the emission to really stand out more for the player. So set your bloom to whatever you like. We'll go into post-processing more in another video. And let's hit play and see what we've got. So we've got these emissive colors, and it's actually reflecting off the wall, which is really cool. Jump, collect it, jump. Now the player knows what they can use as a jump pad, or what they can't, based off the color. Which is really nice. The other thing I wanted to do really quickly, I haven't practiced this one before. I just want to see if we go to starter content and we go into our particles, materials, I want to see if we can add onto the emissive color. So we've got particle color, then we've got emissive color. If I was to add a multiply here, add a constant like we did before, we might be able to make our particles shine as opposed to being dim like they are now. So let's just set this to something like 15. So we're not going to convert it to a parameter. We're just going to take the particle color, chuck it into multiply, get a constant of a value of 15, put that into emissive color, and then we just want to see if this affects our particles at all. So now that we've done that, go back to content, particles, drag this in. Actually, instead of that, let's just test it in the scene. We might have to increase the value, we'll see. Ah, there we go. We can actually see our particles now by changing that material. Nice, that's really good. I'm actually going to increase this to 30. Save, close. And that was just the material flare that comes with in the starter content, as I mentioned earlier. So let's hit play again. F11 to maximize the screen. So jump, collect, the particles occur. Nice. All right. This is great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a little speed course, a little obstacle course, and I'm going to speed up the process. So if you want to see the process in real time, just slow down the video to like 0.5 or 0.25 in the settings. I'll catch you guys after I make this level. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really hope you enjoy this format where we take a mechanic that we learn on one day, and then on another day we polish it. I'm really happy with the results and I really enjoyed making this, so let me know what you guys think. And if you really enjoy these videos and want to support the development of these videos, consider supporting me on Patreon. It really helps. These videos take a lot of my time, and the more Patreon supporters I get, the more I can put into these videos. So, as always, remember, pursue what is important to you, because impossible is just a mindset, and I'll see you guys in the next video.